Hello, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone that is connected online via Facebook, the website, or YouTube to tonight's RC chat. We thank you for joining us as we are going to discuss a new year and a new you and how to reset and recharge and refresh your life. And so my name is Dr. Carla Debnam. I'm the host and the executive director of the Renaissance Center. And we, of course, are sponsoring tonight's discussion. We hope that you will be able to glean something for yourself, be able to do some things that you thought you couldn't do after hearing, tips on how to get to that place that you all want to be. And we know we're in year 3 of the pandemic, and it's been tough to get started again for some of us. So we pray that this will help you in that direction. I'm grateful for our guests. We have Dr. Ronald Williams, educator and author currently, and a former pastor. So we are grateful for him. And he was my dissertation advisor for my DMin program. So, he has a special place for me in my life. And Reverend Raylan Kingerter. Hopefully I pronounced it right. I do know Raylan from Loyola and in ministry. So I thank God that over the years, and this is something I'm gonna just add as a tip, you never know who you're going to come across and how they may impact your life. And so just keep that in mind as you go through life, that relationships matter and connections matter. And I'm thankful for the two people on tonight. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Dr. Ron and then Reverend Ray Lynn, and then we'll get straight into our dialogue.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Debnam and the Renaissance Center for the opportunity, and also to my co-panelists this evening. Greetings, everybody. It's good to be here. As Dr. Debnam said, I have been in higher education for 38 years. I've probably known Dr. Debnam most of that time. In ministry for 27 years, I believe, and pastoring, had pastored up until 2020 for 17 years in Baltimore City. So that's been my life, preaching and teaching, and I'm glad to be a part of the conversation tonight.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for the invitation of joining everyone tonight. I met Dr. Debnam, as she said, in Loyola when I began a master's program there. She was very helpful and instrumental in me going through the program. I am former pastor. I as well stopped pastoring in 2020, and now I'm still in ministry, still performing, still doing everything God tells me to do, working full time as well. Got my hands in a whole lot of pots. I am just so grateful to be a part of this panel tonight. Grateful to Dr. Debnam for just constantly keeping in touch and reaching out and just checking in. And as she said, you never know what contact you'll make in life, and keeping those doors open. And I'm so grateful to be here tonight and to join you guys.
Thank you both. Again, welcome to the RC chat. And we've been doing these since 2020. So look, we know the pandemic has, changed the way we do things, but that was the beginning of this program. And so we're just grateful to still be doing it and finding relevant topics. And at this point in the year, we're nearing the end of January, but people are still reflecting and looking at their lives to see, what they can learn from last year or even the year before last. And so I'd like to start off asking you all, what is the importance of reflection before making changes in your life? And we'll start with you, Reverend Raylan, and then Dr. Ron.
Well, as you know, reflection is just a serious thought or serious consideration that you take over your life. And it's a cause to pause, basically. And so you stop and you pause and you look back over things that worked well, things that didn't work well. And the importance of reflecting before making changes is just instrumental in everything you do in life. From a spiritual perspective, Jesus oftentimes stopped and reflected before he did any kind of changes he made in ministry. When faced with very difficult situations, he would steal away and pray. You had him in the Garden of Gethsemane where he went to pray. You have him when before he walked on water, he told the disciples to go ahead of him, and he stayed and dismissed the crowd, and he went and he prayed. Also, and on a different perspective with that, when the woman who was caught in adultery, before he made any decisions about what he was going to say, he stopped and he reflected because he knew he was being judged and he was being watched. And so in life, before you make any changes, it's good to stop and look back and see what worked well, what didn't work well. And so reflection is a very huge part of where we go before we move forward, because you have to examine what needs to be changed, what needs to be cut. Is this working for me any longer? Some things work well and then they don't. Where do I want to go? What is that looking for? So you step back and you look back and you see what direction life is leading you. Where's God leading you? What is God changing? And so it's great to pull away and take that example for Jesus and pull away for a moment or pull away for a while and reflect on where you're going on the next steps. And Jesus did all of that before he did anything. He always took a step back and reflected and looked at things before he moved away. And prayer is very intricate part of that, because we always need to seek direction before we make very big decisions in life. Even the smallest of things, we ought to stop and seek direction before we move forward. And so reflection is huge. And it's just a serious thought pattern where you just step back and think about things in life.
Thank you, Dr. Ron. You can chime in on your view of what reflection does before we make life changes.
Yes, I look at everything through a lens of learning, and through a learning, I guess, paradigm or framework. And reflection is very foundational to that process. It's foundational to the learning process, and learning is absolutely necessary for change and growth. We really, if we're going to be whole and healthy, we have to be competent as learners. The whole concept of discipleship, being a follower, disciplines, those are part of the learning framework. Jesus, rabbi, teacher. So that's why it's important to include that as any part of growth, change, seeking a positive direction. And as Reverend Raylan said, it's a cause to pause. And when you do that, you're positioning yourself to hear. We learn in a lot of different ways, and some of it is more objective, and some of it is very subjective. Mm-hmm. And we need both of those paradigms to be functional in the learning process, to be able to get the most out of the learning process. One of the and I'll stop right there because I want to get into more of the other parts of that process as we move through some of the questions, but a theological and a philosophical lens is tremendously important, and understanding the foundations of the learning process so that we can master them. Sometimes we focus on what we're learning too much and do not focus on how we are learning it. And to get the most of it out of it, we have to turn that on its head and put more emphasis on how we're learning it so we can be competent learners.
Thank you. That's great. I forgot to tell people, if you have a question, put it in the chat. You know, we want to answer your questions this evening. So be open to putting it in the chat, and we thank you for that. So those are great. We have to pause, we have to pray, we have to reflect, we have to see how our continuous learning is informing, you know, the choices we make. And that's why it pays to be a lifelong learner. And the most important thing you have to learn is you. What makes you tick? What do you like? Has your likes or dislikes changed over the years? You are your own expert. You know, nobody can tell you about you like you. Now they can add to your life and inform you of some things you might overlook, but don't discount your ability as an individual to determine what's best for you, because you're the expert on your life. Now, as people do look past reflection, say they have thought a lot about, hey, what's next? How do we also prepare to reset? Because reflection is a part of it, but if I'm going into a next phase, and both of you all mentioned that you had, you know, ended one phase of life and went into another, how did you prepare for that, you know, to make that change? And you can, Dr. Ron, and then Reverend Raylan.
Okay. Yeah, I want to just step back for a second before I just reset. And you mentioned self-awareness and learning yourself and being the best expert. And that's a continuous process. I'm not the same in this minute that I was the last minute because of the experiences that I've had, and learning myself in that process, and really learning the people around you too. You mentioned the pandemic. Now, you know, this year, and you know my wife, we will celebrate 42 years of marriage this June. And in the pandemic, I met a new person. I met somebody else that I had not met the previous 40 plus years, because I did not encounter the relationship, the boyfriend girlfriend period. But it's a continuous seeking and desiring understanding. The word says, "In all you're getting, get understanding," and that requires us to really peak our senses. Reset implies, again, preparing to move from one position to another. So you are getting in position. You're moving from one state into something that's going to work better for you, hopefully position you, or there's a purpose behind that movement. I have sort of a framework that I live my life by, and the first step is always self-awareness, but the second part of that is purpose. What is the purpose? That will help determine how I prepare and how I reset myself for the purpose that I move into. I mentioned the philosophical, and I use these words, I use them with my students. I paid a whole lot of money to learn how to use them, so I'm gonna use them. And I tell them if they, if I get above your head, you got to come on up here with me. But epistemology, the learning framework, teleology, the purpose behind it. And that's going to determine how I prepare. The third part of my framework is the mind, body, spirit, working out, eating correctly, mind, body, studying, praying, making sure I spend the first 2 hours of my day that's spent on me. The first hour is spent in prayer, reflection, meditation. The second hour is spent working out. I don't allow anybody to interfere with that. That's the first 2 hours, whenever it starts. So that's all part of my reset. That's part of my positioning. That's part of my preparation for my day, for whatever I'm moving into, my study, all of that. So I'll stop there on the reset.
As Dr. Williams said, resetting is 100% about your purpose, but it's also when you reset, you need to, it's like a adjusting, not quite starting over, sometimes starting over, but it's like an adjusting. And so as you reflecting on where you've been, you also look for where you're going. And or what's next. I'm always what's next in life. I'm always praying to God, okay, God, what's next? What's next? And so you adjust with that. And resetting offers a fresh perspective and vision and a renewed understanding of your purpose, or of your call. And it helps prepare you for the next phase of your journey or the next phase of life. And so most of us have a general idea where we're headed or which direction in life we would like to go, especially when you're later on in life or in ministry and you've been walking this for a long time. I am 20 something years in ministry, 35 years in the work world. And, I am looking for what's next, which is that retirement phase coming. And so how do I get there? And so you start to reflect back of how you want that to look, and you seek God's guidance in all of that. And so you look at the purpose and you look and you cast the vision for your own life. Early in ministry, we used to teach the children to do vision boards. And so you look at the vision of where you want to go. For me, I'm trying to do nothing when I retired. I mean, nothing. You can't help but to preach the gospel. I told somebody that I said, I'm a priest till God called me home. That I'm going to do that. But the rest of it, I'm trying to do nothing. So what does that look like for me? And so I'm adjusting now. I'm adjusting now to see how that looks and how can I live that well. And as we advance in our careers, we look for that spiritual guidance. And I always say, you step back into prayer and say, God, what's next? What does next look like for me in my life? And again, I go back to that. What is working well? And what do I need to take out of my life? And what can I be doing better? And so you do all of that and reflect and resetting. But one thing I live by, and it's on every computer I own, and that's Colossians 3. And I work and I work and I work as though God is my boss. If I'm going in for that annual review, what will God say about what am I doing? And so we work at it with all of our heart and working towards the Lord. And so when I'm keeping God as my boss in charge and I'm resetting, I'm constantly looking for what's changing and what can I do better. In my work world, I have a staff. They say that we are cliquish. We're not cliquish. I demand excellence. And in training them to get excellence, we have bonded together and we work well. So everybody's moving towards in the vein of excellence. And they're always looking at me and that staff meetings. Okay, here's where we are going. This is what I want to see accomplished. You know how we do New Year's resolutions. We reset at the beginning of the year, and we try to keep those things moving forward and moving in those resolutions. But what I say is don't set yourself up for failure. Look at where you are, and you can cast your visions, but you take those baby steps on trying to make that happen. And you move, and that way you can move towards success. But when you jump all in the feet in, you're going to give up. Sometimes you're going to drown. But when we reset and we look and we adjust, and we take baby steps to set it up again and move forward. And so we prepare for the next phases of life, and we prepare by looking at where we are heading and trying to go and what we're trying to accomplish. And we're trying to see that, and we got to keep pulling back. And again, I keep harping on to see what's working and what's not working, because we tend to hold on to stuff even when it no longer works for us. But we got to learn how to let it go and realize that this is no longer working. It worked well back in 1995, but it ain't working well in 2023. So let's reposition ourselves, and let's retrain, and let's adjust, and continue to seek God in that direction and guidance. I usually tell people, I pray for every decision that I make, even baby steps. Okay, God, should I buy this car? Everything I seek God in. And that's in the reset and trusting God for the next steps in life. And so again, it's just taking those little adjustments, those little tweakings when you see things are going in a different, or where you adjusting to go, because your road that you planned when you were 20, and now that you wherever you are, you done did some deviations and some curves and some this, you adjusted along the way. And so you're resetting constantly so that you can continue to get to where God wants you to constantly be in life, or for if you're not even looking on that path of where God is leading you, or where you plan to see yourself. As they say, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 3-year plan? Whatever that plan may be, you're tweaking and adjusting as you go down that road. And so we just need to adjust as we continue to move forward, so that we can continue to get to that ultimate goal that we have set in life.
Yeah, I agree with making adjustments, because life happens in between us, making plans and setting goals. So we have to make adjustments. And one of the words me and a colleague used last year was pivot. We have to learn how to pivot in the midst of the challenges and changes. But all those things also help us lead to our purpose. And so you have to have measurable goals that are realistic.
Yeah.
So some people, I hear a lot of people say this when they're tired of their job. Oh, I'm gonna open up my own business. So, I go through some of what that looks like. And they're like, well, you're right, I won't make money right away. I say, no, you have to pour into it. And so before you open up your business, you have to still work. It's goals. And they just want to open up their own business because they don't want to work for anybody, not realizing it takes plans, it takes finances, it takes a resetting your attitude. It means you're going to work even more, twice as much than you work for someone else. So with that in mind, if I'm working for myself or working for someone else, or I'm in retirement, what's the benefits? What do I need to do to stay spiritually and mentally refreshed? Because we know over the last several years, and even before the pandemic, we were running on empty. So how can people refresh themselves? And we'll start with you, Reverend Raylan, and then back to Dr. Ron.
I so love that question, because I am all about refreshing. I heard Dr. Williams talk about he's going to eat right and do what he has to do. Anybody that knows me know, they say that I am on a forever diet. I'm not on a diet. I just eat well. I eat well. You have to, part of being refreshed is you have to feel good. And in order to feel good, you have to put good stuff in. And so you burn away the bad, for lack of a better word. You get rid of the stuff, burn away the bad. I am a huge junk food eater, so I've narrowed it down to popcorn and potato chips. The rest of it I can get away with, but I'm going to eat my popcorn and potato chips. But I slowly got rid of the other things. Eat clean, eat healthy, focus on fitness, because if you don't feel good, you're not going to be much good to do much of anything. But also a huge point in the refreshing is the decluttering your space, decluttering your mind, decluttering things that don't work well. Meditation is huge. Yoga. I'm huge on yoga. I'm huge on acupuncture. because those things are for mindfulness. Yoga teaches you to quiet the mind and how to control your thoughts. Very hard to do. But yoga also teaches you how to just learn to be in tune to what's going on with you. It helps you. I have very young to have arthritis, but I have arthritis. I am in yoga, so I don't hurt anymore. It works. But it also, meditation helps you to quiet thoughts. I learned in meditation and yoga that thoughts are constantly coming, constantly coming. But it's when you ponder on those thoughts, then you have the problem. They teach you, just let the two thoughts come. They will come and they will go. They will go as quickly as they come. And so when you focus on those things and you do those things, and decluttering is the main thing. Declutter your space, declutter your mind, and focus on what's good. Get in the way. When I got assigned to my work location in Baltimore City back in 2013, the other bosses in the area said, "Do you ever work a full week?" No, because I learned to take time for me. No, I haven't worked a full week in God knows how long, because I recognize that I need me time. I need me time. And if I go away and get away, I do that. But that helps you to recharge and reset. It helps to clear the mind because you have nothing to do but to focus on you and where you're going. And a good scripture that we can also relate to that is always Psalm 23, where he said, "God restores my soul." Yes, he does. But I also found that in Isaiah 44, it said, "God is the refresher and provides nourishment by pouring out of his spirit." And we want God to constantly pour his spirit out on us, but we have to do it first by monitoring our health, by meditating. What you put in your spirit matters. My sister jokes me all the time. It's like, "What rock do you live under?" Because she's like, "Have you seen this movie?" Nope. "Do you know the song?" Nope. Yesterday, she sent me a whole list of albums to listen to because I don't know the music, because I what goes in matters. And so, no, I haven't seen many movies out there. I don't know many artists out there because that's not what I'm listening to. I like to feel good. I like stuff feel good. What goes in matters. And it actually reflects on what comes out of you. And so you have to begin to put great things in. You have to treat yourself right. And so refreshing requires all of that. A lot of people journal. I don't journal. I don't like to journal. But journaling helps a lot of people. But I'm huge on that meditation, and I'm huge on yoga. Trust me, it's hard, but it works, and it helps restore the body. It resets the body. It refreshes the body. When I leave the gym, I'm complaining all the way to the gym, but when I leave the gym, I feel like a brand new person because I'm refreshed. I feel good. I feel like I can conquer the world, and I'm restoring my health. I don't want to be, well, I'm 50 something years old and broke down. I'm not going down that road. So we got to begin to take care of ourselves and refresh and restore. And our mental health is that way. And you got to pull away and take time for yourself to get that done. I'm going to stop right there because I can keep going on about that forever and ever. But I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And before I even get to the spiritual and the mental benefits, this past 5 years for me has been, I guess, an illustration or a demonstration of the topic. About 5 years ago, and I don't mind telling my age, as I approached my 60th birthday, I decided to do some things differently. So I lost 50 pounds and just, getting myself together. And I was able to maintain that. Up until this past year, I gained 10 of those pounds back. Not a lot, but before I could shake it, I could shake it quickly. If I felt myself elevating in weight, I could get right back to where I was by just making some adjustments. And I could not do that over the course of 2022. So I went to see a nutritionist. And so the nutritionist gave me information that I never would have thought of. Revelation. He didn't ask me what I was eating. He said, "You haven't been able to shake it as normal." What he asked me, what has happened this year? And I said, well, my father passed in July. And he said, there it is. Boom. It is the stress of the experience, holding on to cortisol. Your body begins to hold, weight. And now moving into the first part of this year, I'm trending in the other direction. All I needed was the understanding of what had happened, which helped to reduce the stress of the uncertainty of not knowing why I could not shake it like I had in the past. Being in tune with yourself. People say, well, you worried about 10 pounds? That's not, but no, I was in tune enough to know that my clothes didn't quite fit the same way they did. Mm-hmm. Other little indicators. And when that which had happened to be, had worked before did not work to get to the reset, I sought the professional help. Tell me what's going on with me, what's wrong. And it was not what I expected, but just the knowing coming out of that uncertainty helped to reduce some of the stress. John 3:8, Jesus talking to Nicodemus, and he said, the wind blows where it pleases. Mm-hmm. You hear it, but we don't know where it's coming from or where it's going. So it is with a man born of the Spirit. And that's what the spiritual benefit is. It helps us to deal with and face the uncertainties of life. That's what faith is. Faith helps us walk into the uncertainties. For me personally, this is the year of walking in grace, walking in God's grace. Mm-hmm. Part of that means that I know that I have the unmerited favor of God, even though I'm walking into the unknown. And therein lies the spiritual benefit and the mental benefit of being refreshed, renewed, resetting, continuously learning, always seeking. And that's what I did with the nutritionist. It was a learning macros, a process of discovery. I tried different things. I went from, I'm normally counting macros. I'm a macro nutritionist. I'm normally doing that. But when that wasn't working, I switched to keto. Keto was a disaster. It did not work. It didn't work for me. So, but I was still on a process of discovery, trying to figure out the unknown. And when it clicked, it clicked. And that whole process of the uncertainty, which a lot of us are dealing with, many people now are burned out, tired. I've been on at least 2 calls this week, work-related calls, totally unrelated, where people had to take a minute, where there were actually breakdowns on the call, where they had to go off camera. And you see what's happening in California, the violence, the unpredicted, unknowing, not realizing where it's going to happen when people are on edge. So that's the spiritual and mental benefit of making sure that you're continually refreshing, so that you can face those kinds of uncertainties.
Yeah, that's great. I want to remind our audience to send in your questions. We are here to help you to reset, be recharged, and get refreshed. We want you to be equipped for the year that's ahead. We know we've already faced a lot, and life comes and goes so quickly. Life is but a vapor, but in the midst of it, we can do things to empower ourselves to handle the ups and downs. And everything isn't a down. Sometimes, good things bring stress and can, make us question our purpose or decisions we've made. So keep that in mind, that we're here to help you get the best for yourself so that you can use these tools to move ahead and be successful in your life. This is so great, this conversation, because it gives us so many tips on how to refresh. I mean, how to take care of yourself. It's not just one way is the right way. It's different ways for different people. And so that's the beauty of this conversation. So, hey, we're refreshed, we're in tune with the spirit. We've done some self-awareness. So we are walking in our purpose, or if not, we're pausing and praying and waiting for God to answer us to get revelation and clarity for this new year. So what tips do we have for those persons who feel like they are doing all the right things, but hit a roadblock when maintaining their goals? What can they do to keep a healthy perspective in the midst of challenges in making their goals come to pass, or their vision, anything that they've set their intentions to do this year? How can we encourage them to stay encouraged? So I'd like to start with you, Dr. Ron, and then we go to Reverend Raylan.
Okay, I recommend to everybody. I said earlier that I start off my day. The first 2 hours of every day are for me and God, and I encourage everybody to establish that kind of either routine or framework for how they govern themselves and take care of themselves. I also mentioned previously the areas when I talked about self-awareness and making that a continual process, and always learning to working to know yourself and who you are in the various situations. And even when you're faced with uncertainty, who am I right now? And connecting that to your purpose, whatever God has called you to do, and making sure that you are always aligned with that. When after 17 years, God said, okay, the season of pastoral pulpit ministry is over. I wrestled with God over that, because until it became clear, but that only came out of a process. Purpose. What's the purpose for this season? Have you fulfilled the assignment that you had that is a part of that purpose for this time? That whole process of mind, body, spirit, working out, keeping yourself mentally sharp. And the fourth part of that, the fourth leg on that stool for me, there's a whole body of knowledge, and you are the counselors and you are the mental health professionals, but there's a whole body of knowledge around the psychology of forgiveness. Enright, I think is his name. And I tell everybody, the first person you must forgive is yourself. Some of the stress is self-induced. So we have to give ourselves the space, knowing that we're going to make mistakes. We're going to misstep. Confession, correction, repentance, moving forward. Even the people in your life, understanding. I mentioned my wife, my life partner, 42 years of marriage. Has she hurt my feelings? Yes. Will she do it again? Yes, she will. But I have to make sure that not only am I forgiving myself, I learn how to forgive others around me, extending that grace. That, as we know, can be very, very difficult to do in some cases, but it clears the runway. It keeps me right. I haven't gotten what I've deserved. Thank God for grace and mercy. So I learning how to not only forgive myself, but to allow others that space and not letting them off the hook, holding people accountable. That attention between accountability and grace. There's a tension there sometimes. Because you want to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do, but you also have to allow them to learn, because that's what the process is. It's a learning process, and that's where grace is found. So I think all of those things can help us move forward.
Thanks.
While working on your goals, and setbacks are going to happen. Let me just start with that. That's just a part of life. They're going to happen, but I am a firm believer in perspective, and how you look at everything, how you approach the things that are coming to you and coming in life. Healthy perspectives. Let me take it back. I take it back to the counseling aspect of when people are facing anxiety. As a trained counselor, we know that they are thinking about the what ifs, and that's why they are experiencing the anxiety in their lives. And so when you get these setbacks and when these things happen, we don't focus on the what ifs. We focus on the resetting and starting over, and we go to the perspective of, is this as bad as I am making it out to be, and how do I overcome this? So we don't look at it as a full stop, but we look at it as just a little hurdle or a little stumbling block. And we go back and look at how do we get over it? How do we get around it? How do we get by it? How we make it through? And your perspective is always looking at how I am going to win. That's me. I'm going to win. Worst thing you can tell me do is what I can't do, because I'm gonna prove you wrong. So when these setbacks come, it is my goal and the goal that I tell others is, okay, let's take a look at what really is happening. Let's unpack this, and then let's go forward. And we do new goals, and we look at how we can get to the other side of this. And so we look at our focus, and our focus cannot be always on the downside, because your focus ties into your feelings. What you're focused on reflects those feelings, what your feelings. Psalm 71 really, really takes a good look at that. What you're focused on reflects your feelings. The psalmist in Psalm 71 states, but God has been his hope from his youth. That just blows my mind every time I read that, because if I would have had God as my focus from my youth, ain't no telling where I would be right now. And so it just blows my mind every time. And in that psalm, he is completely focused on where God is going to take him as he defeats everything around him. And so as we look at how we maintain these goals, as setback comes, let's not focus on the bad, but how we are going to overcome it and what we can do to get around, overcome it. Expect setbacks, always expect setbacks. Everything is not always going to go the way we would love it to go. And so we move through it. We stop, we regroup, we take a look, and we move through it. Acknowledge your strengths, but also recognize your weaknesses, because in that it helps us to move forward with our goals. I may be good at this and I may be bad at that. I surround my people who have different gifts, by people who have different gifts, where this person is good at that person is good at that. And together we make a great force of nature. And so we will do that and moving forward. But again, I keep going back. I keep going back to mindfulness. I keep going back to what you're taking in. I keep going back to learning to quiet yourself. That's that meditation piece. To keep going back to that prayer. I pray throughout the day. I stop and I pray. I feel the tug of the spirit to pray, and I stop and pray. I pray throughout the day, morning, noon, night, wherever I feel the mood to pray, I stop and pray. But also don't set unrealistic goals. You have to maintain realistic goals, because sometimes we may set the bar too high. For those of you who don't like it, I'm sorry, but I have tattoos. And I keep my tattoos on my wrist. They on my wrist. And one that says, I can, dot, 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 dot. And the other one says, I will, dot, 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 dot. And every time I feel a little discouraged, I look at my wrist and I say, I can do all things through Christ that strengthen me. I got that there so I can finish the sentence for wherever I am. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praises shall continuously be in my mouth. So these tattoos are on me and with me constantly. With finish the sentence. So wherever we are, if I'm feeling down, I can look down and pull from these two tattoos with finishing the incomplete sentence to help me move forward and to help me to keep going. And so I just want to emphasize your focus equal your feelings. And so if you want to focus on something that didn't go well and keep your focus there, then it's going to pull you down. But if you think about, okay, this is just a setback, I'm going to get through this. Let me find out what can I do to get through this. Let me pull some people in to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. What do you think? And surround yourself by those people who will help you reach your goals or help you reset and help you recharge. And just always remember your strength and your weaknesses and acknowledge those, but also turn to scripture, turn to meditation, continue to pray and to watch the Lord work it out for you.
Amen. Amen. That's so awesome, because so many of us are just struggling. And one piece you just mentioned, and we do have a question or comment from the audience, is about people, surrounding yourself with people that are positive, that are going in that right in the direction you would like to head just into, whether it's some mentors or people you admire from afar. You could read people's biographies to see how they were able to overcome and pursue the things that they wanted in life. So the comment from Facebook is, I sometimes find that when I'm trying to reset or attempt to make changes for the better, people, family and friends look at it as being selfish, not as looking at the person as they're trying to grow and be a better them. So what advice, I'll start with you, Dr. Ron, and then you, Reverend Raylan, do you give people who are trying to do what we're saying? They are doing it, but are getting backlash from the...
Yeah, I would encourage, and I don't want to give a overly simplistic answer. So I'm first going to say, prayerfully knowing your purpose and yourself and your relationship with God, because there are times when your direct call, when your direct assignment that is from on high, divinely ordered, will cause others to perceive it as selfish. Jesus, what do you mean you're getting ready to leave? We need you down here. When you are clear about what you are called to do and what your assignment is, that kind of I'll say something, distraction or noise from the outside is going to become irrelevant. When you know your assignment, and I love sports analogies, I suggest to everybody, play your position. I don't need my wide receiver trying to block in the interior line. That's not your position. You're not built for that. You're going to get crushed because you're out of position. I don't need my interior lineman running a pass route. You're not fast enough. You're not lean enough. You're not constructed for that. You have to be clear about who you are, the giftedness that is uniquely in you, You are gifted for a purpose.
Mhm.
And once you align yourself with that, all of the criticism, all of the naysaying, all of this distraction really becomes irrelevant. You do what you know you've been called to do.
Amen.
And I can't say it any better than that, because that hits it on an that's it. You have to learn how to not listen so much to the outside and focus on exactly what your purpose and your call is. And while there are a lot of people who don't want to see you prosper for whatever reason, good, bad, or ugly, they don't want to see you prosper, or they believe that you cannot do it. But the best thing you can do is to remain focused and steadfast. And once they see you reach your goals and see you moving toward where you say you were going, they will begin to quiet down. I had personal reflection. I had someone to tell me, again, don't tell me what I can't do, because I'm gonna prove you wrong. Someone to tell me that I was not going to be able, this is when I was in undergrad, 40 years ago, tell me that I was never going to be able to pass her class. What kind of instructor tell you that? And it was my goal to prove her wrong, just because she didn't even know me that well. But you move forward, and every time I walked in there, all I saw was her looking to destroy me. But I aced her class with A's and everything. And at the end of the class, I just looked at her and said, now what? Because you don't allow other people to determine your life and where you're going. If this is where you're going, this is the goal you set, this is what God told you to do, go forth, move forth, and celebrate you. And surround yourself by those people who believe in you. There is a friend, or not a friend, a church member, a co-worker. There is somebody who believes in you and what you're doing and will support you. And just like Aaron and Miriam held up Moses' arms, there's somebody there to hold up your arms as you move forward in life. And those things will quiet you down. Everybody got an opinion, but all those opinions don't matter. All of them don't matter. Move forward in what God has for you, and move forward where you see yourself going, and quiet the noise around you so that you can stay focused.
Yeah,
Can
this
I
is good. This is
Now, can I
good.
piggyback on that? I hear God talking. uh, when you align yourself with your purpose, your sheer anointing and the fact that you have aligned yourself will uncover the insecurities of others.
Yes.
They're just your presence. And you wondering, why in the world are these people messing with me? I'm doing my thing. Just once you align, some people call them haters or whatever, but what it really is the fact that you have aligned with God's purpose, and it exposes the insecurities of others around you. They may wonder why they can't, or why they weren't chosen, or why they whatever. And that's your opportunity in some cases, if that's your assignment, to help them deal with that insecurity, to be that example for them, that once that they can align just as you did. And that becomes a way for you to really bless others through the fact that you have aligned and their insecurity has been exposed.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's right in what I was thinking, because the more you gain spiritual confidence, you have self-awareness, you've been studying to show yourself approved, you've been doing the work. It'll show again that others around you may not be doing the same level of work, and you're not doing it to outdo them. Again, you're doing it because of your purpose, your relationship with God, your goals. You set particular goals, and now you're following through, and you're seeing the results, and so are they. I never forget, years ago, after I had given my life to Christ and had gone through discipleship. And I went back home, which is just, down the parkway to DC. And one of my friends said, "You look different." Now, I look the same, basically, but it was something different. But the difference was, of course, God, but it was also maybe I had started changing. I saw myself differently. When we're young, we have, and even older, we have the peer pressure, right? So when you start being okay being you, people notice it, that, wow, she's okay. She's not like she used to be. People say, "Oh, you're not like you used to be. You're acting funny." That's not it. You've grown, you have matured, and you have found your people. And I'm telling you, it's nothing like finding your people. I mean, that right there, because it doesn't mean you leave your family and don't hang out with them. It just means that this group of people are the people that bring you life, that affirm your calling, your purpose, and they help you to go back into the settings where you may not be affirmed or appreciated. And because we can't all just leave our jobs, our families, and other things. So this is why it's important to really know yourself, because this helps you to find your people and to continue to walk in a spiritual confidence that other people can't always appreciate. So we won't call them haters. They just don't appreciate the new you. They're like, "What's going on here?" And they'd rather stop listening to the RC chats. They're changing, So any final words that you might have? People could be saying, "Hey, I don't need a fresh start. I don't need anything new in my life. I'm okay where I am." So if you're that person, if we have those people in the audience, what can they still do if they think they are doing all the things we said? And I'll start with Reverend Raylan, and we'll close out with Reverend Ron.
It's great when you have reached your goals in life. Always be growing, always moving forward. It's good to be content, but let's not be complacent. You really, really, really always need to be doing something new and growing and challenging and setting goals to help improve not just you, but improve your mind. We should always trying to learn more, because there's so much more out there that we don't know. Um, Always jumping into courses, always looking for trainings, always trying to better yourself. I try to surround myself with really, really smart people who are way smarter than I am, at work and on the outside, because when you're the smartest one in the room, it's not a whole lot you can learn. But when you surround yourself by people who are always looking to gain more, and it's more, I like techie people because I'm not computer savvy. And so I like to jump into meetings where they're talking and I'm learning and I'm growing, but also just always try to learn something. Set one goal a year where you take trainings. I usually go away for a week a year to go to some kind of training, uh, just to learn and advance and to grow and to set goals. And I come back ready and reset to go conquer something else. But it's good to be content. I am very content where I am in life, but I will never be complacent because there's always something more, always something I can do. It's always growing, always moving forward, and always bringing in. Always, I love mentoring young adults. Always finding a young person who I can pour into, always and push to a new level into new heights. That's just what I love. Grabbing hold of onto younger people and pushing them to where they never even thought they or imagined they could be. And so it's great to be content, but always remember not to be complacent. and in that we have a lot of godliness. So just always welcome new things, because God will always send you new things in your life, and don't be afraid to walk in it. Never be afraid to walk in it, because you never know where it's going to take you.
The only thing I would add to that is, I love the distinction between being complacent and content, and understanding the difference. And I'll even pivot back to the philosophical or the theological. Become a student and have an axiological perspective. Axiology is the study of value. Where is the value? And be a pursuer of value. Allow the value to pull you. And you can push value, but you have to make sure you have value to push. But be a pursuer of value. How am I going to be better? How am I going to inspire better? What does better, best look like? How do we experience it? So take an axiological view and understand value.
Thank you all. I'm gonna answer the one last question was, what can you do not to worry? I think Raylyn had mentioned about worry. Our feelings get in the way, then we worry about again what people think, about how the outcome of us pursuing new goals and visions and thoughts will how it'll work out. So worry is a part of it, because it's just part of the human nature. But you don't want to spend all of your time worrying when it could prevent you from pursuing your goals. And so again, this is mental health. So some of us might need a coach. There are people that'll coach you through your process of determining what your goals are. They'll help you keep you accountable with goals. And then some people may need professional counseling if the worry is overwhelming and interfering with their ability to fulfill their goals, to understand their themselves, or to see the value in change and committing to that change. So you don't have to do it by yourself. So you can take the worry off the table, because you're going to find your people, you're going to get coaching or counseling, you're going to find a group of iron sharpening people that are on your level, we'll say, and above, and then people that you can mentor. So remember, we need 3 levels of relationships in our lives. And if it's not your family, it's okay. We think our families are supposed to just be magical and support us unconditionally. They may love you unconditionally, but they may not show up for your preaching engagement, or they may not come to your art show, or they may do whatever they do, but that doesn't mean that your purpose doesn't have value. So I want to just say, worry comes with it. But if you do all these things, if you're doing yoga, mindfulness, if you spending the first 2 hours of your day, whatever that is, with God and working out, the worry will disappear. Really, it really will, because you're doing the work to overcome the worry. So this is the Renaissance Center chat. Thanks for joining us. If you have any needs, as I mentioned, we're here. You can call us at 410-409-0025. We thank you for joining us tonight. We thank you for Reverend Raylyn and Dr. Ron for joining us and giving us all this great wisdom. I have like a page of notes, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.